What's up, everybody? Got me a fresh haircut. Realized the first of the month, which is great because I used to just do it whenever, but now I can think in terms of schedule to get my haircut. So this whole Facebook Live thing started right when I got a haircut as well. So if you're in Hawaii, go visit Naomi at Supercuts in Manoa. I want to talk to you guys today about aggression, alpha males, and mental illness. So I shared with you guys some thoughts about my police ride-along that I did in Charlotte, and I'm sorry that the video quality was all right, but the audio quality, there was a lot of like clacking, and I don't know if that's from the mount that I'm using or if that was from the light that I was using, which was mounted to my iPhone. So I'm gonna try to make sure that doesn't happen again. But I realized that I didn't share a couple stories from my police ride-along and just some thoughts I had as well. So there was another call that we went out to. Backstory, I was in Charlotte recently and got to connect with a buddy of mine who's a police officer there, and you can check out the video that I posted either on YouTube or you can scroll through my feed here to hear some of those stories. But one of the stories I didn't share, this was pretty early in the night, someone threw a rock through someone's window. I guess some kids were outside and some other kids walked up and said that they wanted to fight them, and so the kids ran inside and then somebody threw a rock through the house. So we responded to that call, saw the obvious hole in the window, and they were trying to pull their security footage as well, which is super interesting too, that they had security cameras, there's lots of cool apps and stuff like that, but they didn't know how to actually pull the footage from that. So that's interesting. If you have security cameras, it'd probably be good to know how to use them. But I understand that you put something up, think you're safe and think it's good, but then can you actually get that footage back when you need it? That's a good thing to know. So anyway, as we were wrapping up that call, one of the police officers that was at the door told us as we approached to keep our eyes out and gave us a description for somebody that was trying to like flag them down. I think it's somebody that they had interacted with previously, and he just kept looking. And so as we were wrapping up that call, this guy comes walking down the street, and we talked with him, and I guess he's just like, I just got out of jail, and he's like, I don't want to go back. And then he told us that his landlord had evicted him or something like that. So we meet him at his residence, and there are garbage bags full of his stuff there. We knock on the door, an elderly gentleman comes to the door, and the elderly gentleman is really struggling to get to the door, but we're trying to figure out, was this person actually legally evicted or not? And we found out that he was not. There was no record of him being legally evicted. And so we were just like, well, if the roommate says that he recognizes you, then you can go back in. So that's how that resolved for that portion of the evening. We ended up back there again in the evening, and it seemed like this guy was just maybe having some kind of mental episode. He was either that or he was on some kind of drug, but he was just pacing back and forth and screaming and stuff like that. And so it was interesting just to see the effects of mental illness. The landlord ended up showing up and wanted us to get him out of there, and was worried about the other people in the house. I guess she had rented out this house, but rented out rooms to people that were in need. And so I guess this guy woke up, the guy that had been evicted that we allowed back in the house had woken up the old man, and we had to call an ambulance for him because he was just so startled the second time we went back to that house. And yep, as the EMTs arrived, the fire department arrived, they asked me like, hey, are you on a ride-along? And I shared that I was, and then they pointed into one of the rooms. They're like, we call this the, I don't remember what they said, something house, and they said that someone had been stabbed and bled out in that room, like next to us, which was a little nuts. So yeah, just to see mental illness and this guy, and then again, just the police doing an excellent job of not escalating the situation, speaking in a calm voice, trying to get the guy to calm down, trying to get him to go to bed. You know, that's all they wanted us to do. So one of the police officers did a really good job of just being like, hey, you know what? Hey, all right, and just being respectful and using a calm tone, and got him to calm down, which was really amazing, because there was another police officer there that was not doing a good job of de-escalating things. So I think de-escalation is a really important skill. So that's what I'm thinking about mental illness, and I wonder what the root of mental illness is. I talked to another police officer friend of mine in Maryland, and he just said that they deal with that a lot, and I wonder if there's been an increase in that, and what that is. What's the root of that? Why are we seeing an increase in mental illness? Is that, again, the breakdown of the family? Is that drugs? You know, what's going on there? But yeah, I want to talk about aggression and assertiveness as well. I was really impressed with my friend that I did the ride along with. He was a congregant in the first church that I pastored at in Western Pennsylvania, and we used to hit the streets in Jamestown, New York. We'd go out to like 2nd Street and just walk up to people and ask them if they needed prayer. We'd go to some of the rougher areas in Jamestown and do that. And so he's always just been really good about that, about walking up to strangers. So I think as we were finishing that one call, there was a be on the lookout for a person, a certain description, and as we're pulling out, we see somebody that fit that description, and so he just hops out of his car real quick, and it's just like, I need to talk to this guy. And so in my mind, I'm just like, man, I would not want to hop out of my vehicle not knowing what I'm running into right now and have to approach that person blind, you know, because you don't know what's going to happen. If it is that person that you're on the lookout for, they're going to take off running, you've got to chase them, you know, and you don't know, are they armed or anything like that. So just the amount of, it's not even really aggression, it's assertiveness, but it is also aggression. To be a police officer, you have to be able to take an aggressive stance, hop out of your car, and go approach someone that you don't know who it is. It ended up not being that person. They were just wearing that description. I think it was khaki pants and a white shirt, and it just like, that's a pretty, broad description of a person. So it ended up not being that person. They didn't meet the age range that we were looking at. But again, I was just impressed that my buddy just hopped out of the car real quick and, you know, was on top of someone, not like physically, but just like was on top of it and was willing to do that. And then just thinking about like alpha males, I don't even know what I really think of this term, but in my line of work, it's not good to be an alpha male at all. And I don't interact with a lot of aggressive people at all. And so it was interesting during the police briefing before we got out, just to be in a room of men that, you know, we're gonna get after it. And again, I was super impressed with their patience and their gentleness when they needed to be. But if stuff hit the fan, I'm sure that they could definitely take care of themselves. And so the leader, I don't know their ranking structure, the sergeant, I guess, maybe, who was in leadership over that squad that night, did the briefing, and he had a Marines cup, and so he also had kind of a Marine style haircut. He's a guy probably in his late 40s, early 50s, and he's pretty intimidating guy. And so it was interesting to just watch him, how he leads. I'm not in that kind of environment ever. I never liked coaching situations where coaches were rough like that. And so it was just interesting to be in that situation. He just made direct eye contact and made me kind of nervous. He's like, "What's your name, son?" And I said James, which I always write out on my stuff if it's a formal thing, but I never go by James. But it was just funny that I was like so nervous that out came James. I was like, I don't know why I didn't retract it and say why did I say that. But it was interesting just to be around that type of group of men and to see them. And I think it's good. It's cool that they can be gentle and respectful and super patient with people that are dealing with mental illness. And again, that's something that I was really impressed with, that I talked about last time in the previous video, was we were having to ban someone from a property that obviously was having some problems with mental illness, maybe some drug stuff right then, that was just acting super paranoid. And we walked up, and they kept their distance and just listened and used statements like, "All right, well, how can I help you tonight? You know, what's going on? How can I help you?" And so just empathetic statements. And one of the police officers later just said, you know, we would rather stand out here and talk to this guy and let him rant and rave and cuss and yell at us for 15 minutes. And then just once he's done, we can say, all right, well, it's time to get on your way, and have them do that on their own than, you know, have to hurry him and have him get aggressive and then have to go hands-on with that person, and then somebody ends up getting hurt, whether the police officer or the suspect. And so yeah, I was just super impressed with the level of patience that those guys have, and just the abuse that they endure verbally. Just people shouting and screaming at us all night, and you just have to take the higher road and be a real public servant and sit and not let your pride get the best of you. So yeah, it's pretty awesome that there's good police officers out there, and it's sad that we don't hear the stories of those good police officers as well. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Just wanted to share those other 2 stories with you. I don't know how things resolved in that one home. I know that a call came out as we were wrapping up our shift that we didn't go to back to that one home. So interesting. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Comment and let me know what you're thinking, and thanks for watching. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.